Hi, my name is Sage, and this week I'm making a 3D skull painting out of paper mache. And to start, I'm taking my canvas and tracing it onto a piece of poster paper that I got from the dollar store before then cutting it out. The reason why I'm cutting it out is so that I can draw the skulls on the poster paper. You may be asking, why not just draw on the canvas? Wouldn't that be simpler? And no, because with the poster board, I can erase as much as I need to before reaching the final product without having to waste numerous layers of paint trying to cover up any of my mistakes. Plus, the poster board's main purpose is to be my guide before I then start making it 3D. And once I start paper macheing, that can get super messy. So I'd much rather just get the paper mache on where I want it rather than trying to get off any of my mistakes on the canvas later. And the poster board will also be the backing of the 3D skulls that I make, so when I adhere it to the canvas later, it will for sure stick. And then once I'm done drawing the two conjoined skulls, I then cut it out using scissors. I did draw flowers around them, and I will add them later to the canvas, but I drew them there just for visuals for me to see if I liked them there or not. And I did. I then add the tinfoil to it to make it look 3D. In order to do that, I fold and scrunch up the tinfoil into the shapes that I've drawn, before then hot gluing those shapes to the cutout. I then build upon those shapes until I have everything bulked up and it eventually turns into this. And now that the base is all done, it's now time to smooth it down with a popsicle stick. And the reason why I do that is so when I lay down the paper mache, it has a better chance at laying flat, until it eventually looks like this. And now it's time for paper mache. Oh, and pause to read the recipe. For the paper mache, I do add blue food coloring to it just because it's easier to see on camera. That's totally optional for y'all if y'all are gonna do this too. And also, with this specific piece, I did put a lot more of the goop on than I would have wanted just because I wanted everything to lay as flat as possible. At least that was my thought process going into it. And once I was done, this is what it looked like. So then I let it sit overnight. And this is what it looked like the following day. I did end up blow drying it though, just because the crevices were still a bit damp. But besides that, it was good to go. I then painted the canvas you saw at the beginning, and I decided to go with a red color. I never used this red before, and it turned out really pretty. I really like it. I then do a black base over the skulls, and I only have to do one coat, which surprised me. But one thing about paper mache that I find is that it definitely soaks up the paint well. And this is what it looked like with one coat on. After that, I then decide to add highlights on the skulls, and I mix blue and white to put on the most protruding parts before then adding in some grayish purples. I add in a bit of each color throughout this process. And the reason why I choose these colors is because since my canvas is red, I wanted to highlight everything with cool tones so it will get that extra pop factor, because even though it's already 3D, I really wanted it to stand out from the canvas in more ways than one. Once I am done, I then set it aside to dry. Then I move on to making the paper butterflies. So I take black construction paper, fold it in half, and draw half of the butterfly shape before I cut it out. This reminds me of art class in my early grades when the teachers would tell you to fold up a piece of paper and cut a ton of crazy shapes, and everyone would have a unique snowflake at the end. Just like the snowflakes in school, I cut out some funky shapes on the butterfly too. I then do this to the other butterfly that I made, and then I make another two off screen. So now that the skulls have dried, the butterflies are cut, and the black rose flowers I got from the dollar store are placed, it's now time to glue everything onto the canvas. I use Gorilla Glue to glue the skulls on, and it's just because they're a bit heavier than everything else, and I wanted it to adhere properly. For everything else, I use the hot glue gun. And one thing that I've learned by doing this is when you place down your item, regardless if it's a butterfly, flower, or stem, put the glue where the item naturally rests on the canvas, because that will ensure that it grabs on. And now, since it's coming up on the end of the video, I would just like to say thank you so much for watching, and if you want to follow me on any other socials, the links are in the description. And now it's time for the glamour shots.